Hi, welcome to the Action Speak Network. I'm Manasai. So the Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer, Democrat from New York, went on the Senate floor yesterday where he said that the Democrats are not ready to vote for the bill that was passed by the House Republican, the continuous resolution bill that was passed by the House Republican, because the Democrats believe that this bill contains several provisions that they are not ready to support. He said this, play the clip.
Republicans do not have the votes in the Senate to invoke cloture on the House CR. Our caucus is unified on a clean April 11th CR that will keep the government open and give Congress time to negotiate bipartisan legislation that can pass. I hope our Republican colleagues will join us to avoid a shutdown on Friday.
After the speech of Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, Republican senator from the state of Oklahoma, went on Newsmax where he had this reaction to the speech of Chuck Schumer. Play the clip.
What's your reaction to Senator Schumer's comments and threats to shut it all down?
Well, Mark, I was actually on the floor when Schumer was making these remarks, and I was kind of dumbfounded because he said that we didn't work with them to draft this CR. Keep in mind, it's a continuing resolution, the same continuing resolution that the Democrats voted for in September when Joe Biden was in office, the same continuing resolution CR that the Democrats voted for in December when Joe Biden was in office. So what has changed about the CR, which is a continuing resolution, right? The difference is it's Joe Biden's not in office and President Trump is in office, and they're willing to shut down the government.
Senator Kennedy also reacted to Chuck Schumer's speech. He went on Newsmax where he had this to say. Play the clip.
So it used to be, Senator, and I'm thinking back to the mid-1990s during the Clinton years, that a government shutdown was a really big deal. I'm sorry. It's like an annual event now. Happens all the time, far too frequently. Yeah. Do you think people even care if the government's forced to shut down? I don't think they do.
I think, Rob, the elderly care, and let me tell you what I mean by that. Many Americans don't have time to study the news every day, and they hear a shutdown, and if they're on Social Security or Medicare, they worry that their checks are going to stop or their doctor won't treat them. Now, a shutdown doesn't impact Social Security or Medicare, but still a lot of people worry who are elderly and depend on those two social programs. But otherwise, I think people are sort of desensitized to it. But it's not a good thing. It's very disruptive. We know government's not going to stay shut down. It's a clown show without the makeup, and we shouldn't go through it.
The minority leader in the House, Hakeem Jeffrey, went on Morning Joe where he had an interesting exchange with Mika, and they talk about the potential government shutdown that's looming, and he had this to say. Play the clip.
House Republicans and Donald Trump have passed a partisan spending bill that will hurt everyday Americans. That's the problem. The bill that passed the House in a partisan way and was sent over to the Senate will hurt veterans, hurt families, hurt children, and hurt seniors. It cuts health care. It cuts nutritional assistance for children. And it cuts veterans' benefits, including as it relates to individuals who are suffering from exposure to toxic substances, burn pits, and Agent Orange. That's completely unacceptable, and so we're standing on the side of the American people.
We know that most Democrats are going to oppose the continuous resolution bill that was passed by the House Republican. But there's one senator, a Democrat from the state of Pennsylvania, John Fetterman. He has said that he will vote for this bill because he doesn't want a government shutdown. Play the clip.
I don't support or I agree with the way they've approached that. But if the House Republicans pass it and then they send it over to the Senate, now I've been on the record saying, I'm going to have to vote for that. Yes, because then that's going to then that would shut our government down. And then that puts it on Democrats to withhold our votes and our support. We don't agree with what's been sent to us, but if we withhold our votes, that is going to shut the government down. And I think that's one of our core responsibilities in the Senate or in the government here, to not ever allow the government to shut down. And I would see that it become, for Democrats, we're going to burn the village down just to save it. And now, if we are concerned the way our economy could be teetering into a recession, and if the government shutdown nudges that towards that, I think that's something that the government, then the Republicans, that the Democrats will own shutting the government down. And I think that would be the wrong kind of message, because that would have a substantial impact on millions and millions of innocent Americans by stuck in the middle of this battle.
Yesterday at the White House, President Trump received the leader of Ireland. And during his exchange with the leader of Ireland, they touched on several topics. President Trump spoke about the behavior of the Democrats during his address 2 weeks ago to the joint session of Congress. He believed the Democrats didn't act in an appropriate way. He said this, play the clip.
The Democrats have no clue. You saw that the other night during the speech. 2 young women were slaughtered by illegal aliens. 1 young man has very serious cancer, and many other problems. We look at the people up there, they all had difficulty, very serious difficulty. But when we're talking about 2 young girls, beautiful young girls, Lake and Riley, you know the whole story. That evening was a disaster for the Democrats, in my opinion. And I would mention, and I'd see 2 mothers that were inconsolable as they stood, crying. Their daughters have been absolutely just destroyed, killed, viciously killed. And the young man who loves the police departments, he had cancer and has cancer, very bad cancer. There wasn't from people sitting there, Democrats, there wasn't a hand clap. Nobody stood. They were just stone-faced. These people are sick. There's something wrong with them. There was no standing for anybody. The only thing they liked is when they heard about the death taking place with Ukraine. They were happy about that. They were happy about that. Pocahontas was very happy. She's the one that was slapped. That's why I looked at her. I said, oh, it's Pocahontas. These people are sick. They don't know what's happening in the real world. The Democrats have to get their act together.
He said that Minority Leader Chuck Schumer in the Senate is now a Palestinian. That before he was a Jewish, but now he has become a Palestinian. Play the clip.
And people are going to blame the Democrats. And Schumer is a Palestinian, as far as I'm concerned. He's become a Palestinian. He used to be Jewish. He's not Jewish anymore. He's a Palestinian.
President Trump was asked a question about the Department of Education. And he explained the reason why he believed that education should go back to the states instead of being run by the government. He said this, play the clip.
On the Department of Education, sir, would you describe for us, is this meeting your vision by cutting about half the workforce? And what responsibility do you feel to the civil servants who have now lost their jobs? Many of them worked at the Department of Education during their first term.
Sure, I do. I feel very badly, but many of them don't work at all. Many of them never showed up to work. Many of them never showed up to work, Kelly. And unfortunately, that's not good. And when we cut, we go, and that's what I had a number of meetings with a lot of people over the last couple of months. When we cut, we want to cut, but we want to cut the people that aren't working or not doing a good job. We're keeping the best people. And Linda McMahon is a real professional, actually a very sophisticated business person. And she cut a large number, but she kept the best people. And we'll see how it all works out. But our country was run very badly. I mean, whether it was that or contracts that were signed that was so bad, so obviously bad, and I go through them in speeches. I could go through them all day long. I could read for billions and hundreds of billions of dollars, and all of that fat and waste and fraud and abuse is being taken out. But it's incredible what's happened. Now, Department of Education's maybe more so than any other place, has a lot of people that can be cut. They're, number one, not showing up to work. Number two, they're not doing a good job. And if you take a look at our education process, and if you look at the charts, because they have numerous charts where they do the top 40, we're at number 37, 38, 39, and 40. And recently they hit, during Biden's last few days, they hit last. So they were number 40, and yet we're number one in cost per pupil. So it's pretty bad. But we have a dream. And you know what the dream is? We're going to move the Department of Education. We're going to move education into the states, so that the states, instead of bureaucrats working in Washington, so that the states can run education. And you have Norway, you have Denmark, you have Sweden, you have Finland, you have various countries that do very well. You also have China that does very well in education, which is a pretty big tribute to China, I must say. 1.4 billion, and they're in the top 10. And it's pretty amazing. So we can't blame size anymore. You know, normally you'd blame size. It's too big, how can you do it? But China does it. So we think when you move it back to Iowa and Indiana and all the states that run so well, there's so many, I could name 30, maybe almost 40. Those will be as good as Denmark, those will be as good as Norway, and they'll be as good as any of these. I believe they'll be as good as any. Now then you're going to have 10 that won't be so great. You're going to have 5 that will not be good at all, but we'll work with them and we'll get them to be good. But what we want to do is always school choice, but we're going to do school choice, and we're doing it. But we want education to be moved back where the states run education, where the parents of the children will be running education, where governors that are doing a very good job will be running education, not run. I drive through the city and I see like so many buildings, Department of Education, Department of big buildings, and by the way, they're empty. Nobody shows up to work. So I think Linda did a very good job.
Representative Tom McClintock went on C-SPAN where he was having an interview. He touched on the situation with the Department of Education that announced yesterday that they are reducing 50% of their workforce to implement the policy recommended by President Trump. He had this reaction. Play the clip.
The Education Department has announced that it is laying off about half of its workforce. What's your reaction to that?
Well, old-fashioned. I believe that if a dollar that is not spent in the classroom is a dollar wasted.
You believe that money's not being spent in the classroom?
No, I think a lot of it is spent on bureaucracy, on a lot of useless programs. Put that money directly in the classroom. You know, we had a much, much better school system when teachers were in charge of their classrooms, when principals were in charge of their teachers, and when school boards were in charge of their principals. That system worked and worked very well. As power has devolved first to state capitals and then to Washington, our schools have deteriorated dramatically. I think we need to ask a very simple question. Has the quality of our public education in America increased with the Department of Education or declined? And the answer is screaming at us. It's declined. It's declined rather dramatically. Clearly, the Department of Education in Washington is not helping. I think it's actually hurting.
Senator Kennedy, the Republican senator from the state of Louisiana, had an interview yesterday on the Laura Ingraham show where he talked about the situation with Kali, the student of Columbia University that was arrested during the protest in the university campus. And Senator Kennedy explained his take on the situation with the student. He said this, play the clip.
Here's the bottom line. Mr. Khalil hates America, as you said in your monologue. You know, if you're not happy where you are, move. You're not a tree.
During this same interview, Laura Ingraham, the Fox News anchor, asked Senator Kennedy what he thinks about the fact that in America right now, there are more than 1.5 million foreign students in American university. She believed that it's not normal that these foreign students should be in America in this huge number because they are competing with American students. And she believes it's not a good thing for the American student. Play the clip.
We have 1.1 million foreign students studying now in the United States. It's a record number.
And I'm happy to have them. And
so you think that American students should have to compete with foreign students at American universities? I don't actually believe that.
I understand. I'm happy to have our foreign students. I want to pick the best and the brightest in the world and have them come to America.
I think he got pretty good grades, so someone would say he's the best and the brightest.
But also they have to love America.
But the Chinese students here love America?
No, they have to. No, they have to love America.
So why are they here?
Their allegiance has to be to the country, and when they're here, they have to behave. And the Immigration Naturalization Act is very clear. If they don't, if we even have a reasonable belief to think that their presence is adverse to foreign policy, we can deport them.
Lee Zeldin, the EPA administrator, went on Fox News where he had an exchange with Laura Ingraham, and where they talk about the agency, the Environmental Protection Agency that he's at the head now, and their various activities since President Trump took power. He explained that they have uncovered enormous amounts of fraud, especially from the Green New Deal that was passed under President Biden's administration. He said this, play the clip.
The death of the Green New scam is upon us. And there are people who are congressional Democrats who are not going to be happy with our actions. I am here to fight for, as part of that Trump mandate, earned November 5th, the people across this country who have seen a Green New Deal that, if fully implemented, will cost tens of trillions of dollars, and people who cannot afford to be able to heat their home, to purchase a car, small businesses that are struggling to operate. People have been put out of work, and it's going to end. And this whole grift of being able to get tens of billions of dollars of tax dollars to your friends, it's over.
People have made. First they made in COVID, all the COVID scam, hundreds of billions of dollars in the COVID. But the green money scam is, it's beyond.
They're not giving their friends, $100,000 here or $2 million there. They're giving friends billions of dollars.
Okay, speaking of, Stacey Abrams is now defending the $2 billion that funneled to an affiliated group of hers. Watch.
I led a program to demonstrate that by replacing energy inefficient appliances with efficient appliances, you can lower your cost. And based on that program, a coalition of organizations said to the EPA, if we can do this here, we can do this for millions more Americans. What they are angry about is that it's going to work, because we know it can work.
Why would this have to go through Stacey Abrams? I mean, if you have such a good idea and you need to remediate an issue, if you're spending $1, you just spend $1 to fix the problem. In this case, the Stacey Abrams linked NGO in 2023, they received $100. And then in 2024, they received $2 billion. Their grant agreement stated that they had 90 days to complete a training called How to Develop a Budget.
But how is this $2 billion? Like, if you're giving people like how to insulate your windows and stuff, I mean, how is that $2 billion? Or have, appliances, you have energy efficient.
It doesn't cost $2 billion. But
what is that? Where does the money go? I mean, actually go. Where does it go?
It's going through pass-through. So the $20 billion goes to just eight entities. Many of these entities didn't even exist before this was first created. When the money goes through that pass-through to other pass-throughs,
everybody gets their piece of the pie.
Everybody gets their piece of the pie.
Well, everyone else is getting sick because they're footing the bills.
Representative John Larson, the Democrat, had a very, very intense exchange yesterday with the House Republican over the behavior of the Department of Government Efficiency, the DOGE, headed by Elon Musk. He said this, play the clip.
Men and women on this committee are good people. They're honest and caring people. And that's why I do not understand why you would relegate this committee to no longer being of significance and resort to saying you will do whatever Elon Musk and Donald Trump tell you to do. Where's the independence of the committee? Where's the legislature? We're an equal branch of government. And you start off with a blather, and yet look at the empty seats here. Where's Elon Musk? I'm sure he's a genius and is a very credible person because of the wealth he's accumulated. But that does not put him above the law or the responsibility to come before this committee in this Congress. If he's so great, if these plans and all the fraud and abuse that he's found are so evident, why isn't he here explaining it? You know why. Because he's out to privatize Social Security. He's been on television the last couple of days talking exactly about Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and what he intends to do. Privatize it. The American people, some of them may have been born at night, but not last night. People are aware of this. Every single one of your districts. Now you have someone coming in to privatize a system, something you have longed to do going back to 1982, because Elon Musk thinks that this is the best thing to do. President Trump has called Social Security a scam. Elon Musk, as the chairman, as Mr. Neal said, called it a Ponzi scheme. Ask that of the people in your district. Ask that, Mr. Smith, of the more than 198,000 people in your district who rely on Social Security, and you won't even let the person who's planning to privatize it, who's telling the big lie in front of everyone, in bold as he possibly can, saying, this is what we're going to do. The Congress is in our back pocket. We don't even have to come before them and testify because we control the House, we control the Senate, and we control the presidency. And it's the tyranny of the executive. It's why these resolutions were first adopted back in 1789, because the founding fathers knew that the executive branch does not have total authority over the legislature unless you have a willing party that says, no, we're going to do exactly what you tell us to do, Mr. Musk and Mr. President. It doesn't matter to our constituents. It doesn't matter how much money they are not going to receive. We're not even going to tell them the truth about what's going to happen to them. They administer to over 70 million people in the nation's #1 anti-poverty program for the elderly and children. Shame! Shame! Can't bring people in front of this body. If he's right, if they're so good, if they're so just, why aren't they here telling the American people about it? They're not, because you know the truth. It's about privatization. I yield back.
One very important question that was asked by the Newsmax anchor to Senator Kennedy was, does he think that Elon Musk should be less present and become more discreet with his activities? And he had this to say. Play the clip.
I support what Elon Musk is doing with Doge, but do you think we need to see a little less of Elon Musk for a while?
Everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Do you know what I mean by that? Do you know what I mean by that? I think that he's.
I do.
He can do what he has to do without being so public. Maybe. I'm just asking.
I understand, but Mr. Musk, number one, he marches to the beat of his own drum. That's clear. Number two, he has his own style and way of doing things. Number three, every time I see Mr. Musk, I think that we're saving money, and usually we are. He has done more than any one individual that I know of on God's green earth in the 8 years I've been here to reduce federal spending. And I applaud him. Is he perfect? No. Has he made a couple of mistakes? Yeah. Does he tweet too often? Everybody's entitled to their opinion. I'm happy to read his tweets because every time I do, he's telling me how much spending porn he's found. I just think he's doing a great job. Now, I understand the Democrats are upset at him, but think about it. My Democratic colleagues they're mad at him for finding the waste, but they're not mad at the people who created the waste.
One moment that the people miss was when Elon Musk went on CPAC and he was asked some few questions. They asked him about the 2 astronauts that are stuck in space and if it's possible for him or for his company SpaceX to go get them. He said they could have done that during the Biden administration, but the administration didn't want them to do that because he supports Trump. And they didn't want people who support Trump to look good. Play the clip.
So obviously it was an antagonistic situation. And those astronauts were supposed to be up there for 8 days, and now they're up there for 8 months. Does that make any sense? And we obviously could have brought them back sooner, but they didn't want anyone who supported President Trump to look good, basically.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
During this press conference, a journalist asked President Trump who is his favorite Irish artist and sportsman. He said this. Play the clip.
Who's your favorite Irish person?
Oh, there's so many. Are you kidding me? Well, I do happen to like your fighter. He's got the best tattoos I've ever seen. I don't know if I'm a big, but that.
Conor McGregor.
Boy, you have. Well, Conor's great, right? You know, talking about Conor, but you have a lot of great Irish fighters. Actually, great fighters. I don't know what that is, but Ireland's always had a lot of good fighters. You know why? Because they're tough people. They're smart people and they're passionate people, and they really have been over the years. So many. I think your father was a great fighter, right?
He was. You did.
Wow, and yet look at you. You're so smooth and so.
He was a very good defensive boxer.
He was a really good.
He was a good boxer. Yeah.
Right,
Boxed for Ireland, and
yeah. That means you genetically, I'm not going to mess around.
There was a heated exchange yesterday in the House of Representatives, where a chairman of one of the committees, a Republican chairman of one of the committees, addressed another representative, a Democrat, by the pronoun of Mr. Meanwhile, she's a transgender and wants to be called Mrs. So she responded by calling him Yes, Madam. It was a very heated exchange. Please watch, play the clip.
I now recognize the representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ranking Member Keating, also wonderful.
Mr. Chairman, could you repeat your introduction again, please?
Yes, we have set the standard on the floor of the House, and I'm simply.
What is that standard, Mr. Chairman? Would you repeat what you just said when you introduced a duly elected representative from the United States of America, please?
I will. The representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Mr. Chairman, you are out of order. Mr. Chairman, have you no decency? I've come to know you a little bit, but this is not decent.
We will continue this.
You will not continue it with me unless you introduce a duly elected representative the right way.
This hearing is adjourned.
President Trump also spoke about the issue of men being in women's sports. You all remember during his inaugural address, he touched on this topic already, and he's strongly opposed to the presence of men in women's sport. Play the clip.
Who would allow men to play in women's sports? And they're still fighting it. It's got to be a 95% issue. But they're on television this morning. I see this person, a Democrat, say, we should have the right. No. Men should not be. They're hurting women. They're hurting women very badly. They're hurting women. And they should not. And they're also demeaning women. But who would want these things? And everything's transgender. Everybody transgender. That's all you hear about. Now, that's why we won the election in record numbers.
There you have it. On Action Speak Network, we give you the facts. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 1,000. I'm out.
One day